Hi everyone, welcome to the engine channel. Today we're starting to work with this engine. It's a Volvo engine. The exact model will appear on the screen now. I've already had Volvo engines on my channel and I said that I wouldn't take on Volvo anymore. Well, anyway, that's just how things turned out for us. Maybe I'll explain it later, maybe I won't, we'll see. One way or another, I have a Volvo engine in for repairs again, which means this engine was taken out of a car like this. And it has the following technical specifications. So there's reliable information that this engine has 2,700,000 kilometers on it, which is almost 3 million kilometers. And this is its first repair. Well, maybe the oil pan was removed. I'll show that later. And the fuel equipment was also removed, but the engine itself, the shafts, pistons, and so on, haven't been touched yet. This is 100% reliable information. So I'll remove the gearbox right here at the gate as soon as it's brought in. Maybe I'll remove the clutch right away too, but I'll see. Maybe I'll unscrew it on the spot. Maybe there are some pipes here. Maybe I'll remove the turbocharger. So I've already drilled all the filters. We can see how much oil has accumulated. I also drilled the coolant filter. This is how much coolant came out. And on this side, we have the fuel filter too. This is how much diesel fuel there is. And I'll also mention that the main reason for removing the engine is that the engine is blowing oil through the breather. But overall, the car runs pretty well. The fuel consumption doesn't seem too bad, and the oil pressure is good. But it's blowing a lot of oil vapor through the oil filler neck and the breather itself. So the customer decided to disassemble and repair it, even though he was advised not to touch it and just let it run as long as it lasts. Some engines reach 4 million kilometers, but usually the customer chooses to repair them sooner. So the scope of work is standard as usual. We disassemble, diagnose defects, do some things ourselves, and send some parts to a third-party organization. I'm not sure what machining work is needed, but otherwise everything is normal. And I'll also mention that when this engine was removed, a lot of bolts were broken off, somewhere in the mounts, somewhere else. So I was already unscrewing the shifter linkage mount too. And one of the bolts broke off like this. It got stuck right in the body. Here is where the bolt goes. No, here it is. This bolt, it got stuck. I don't know. I'll need to either heat it up or drill it out or something. Also, the neighboring bolt here holds the air conditioner compressor. They also tried removing it on the car for about 4 hours. Everything inside is stuck and clogged with rust, as you can see. Rouge, I also broke this second bolt, and if you look at the engine mount, this hole here, you can see it's all corroded inside. These three are fine, then we don't know how much you can see on camera, but this one is all corroded. The aluminum also oxidized and the bolt rusted, so everything fused together. We barely managed to get it out. And there are a lot of moments like this throughout the engine, meaning this engine has never been removed from the car. But I think this isn't the last bolt that's going to break or snap on me. There might be similar bolts on the manifold. And honestly, I think there will be problems like this all over the engine. I'll have to unscrew, drill out, and do other extra work. Basically, it's going to be additional labor. customer said there were problems with the clutch, but so far, at first glance, I don't see anything like that. The pressure plate is in quite working condition, of course. Measurements will need to be taken. In my opinion, it's worn down like this. Yeah, in general, I even have a rough idea of what's causing the clutch problems. Apparently at some point they replaced the pressure plate and the disc, but left the old flywheel. So we can see on the flywheel there's this kind of wear from the rivets. So it turns out that our pressure plate is only working in this spot, meaning you can see here that the pressure plate is overheating, while this area here is still even intact, factory finish. Meaning from the cutter. Well, I don't know. I'll take some measurements now, of course, but it seems to me that with this kind of repair, they just ruined a new pressure plate, and accordingly the disc as well. So this should have been replaced together as a set on the flywheel. The friction surface has no wear, and only this part of the disc is working. Well, as an option, maybe we'll just replace the flywheel. A new flywheel, disc and pressure plate will fit. That's my advice, but I don't know. We'll see how things go. We'll decide as we go along. We'll see. One of the ears on this aluminum pipe is broken off. There was already some kind of plate made. Here I'll show you now. And it's also broken off already. To be continued. Here you can see a plate was already made here. At some point they tried, but it also broke in general. I don't know, maybe we'll try to weld it or reinforce the plate. Anyway, we'll do something about it. So I removed the heat exchanger cover, and we can see that underneath it there's this amount of, I don't even know if it's sealant or some kind of rubber, as if it fell apart. Yeah, it looks like some kind of gasket, and it just swelled up and broke into these pieces. And we can also see right on the heat exchanger itself, on the grid, there's the same amount of this rubber. Well, according to the temperature, the customer says that his engine wasn't overheating. In fact, it doesn't even reach 80 degrees. That's the maximum temperature. And the radiator was flushed there. We can see that some kind of rubber has crumbled. To be continued. So I removed all the attachments, meaning the block is completely bare. I've already taken off the valve cover, and now I want to take out the wiring, so the wires are being removed through this hole. Here we can see what looks like sealant. It's smeared with sealant from the inside. It's the first time I've seen something like this. Apparently there's so much sealant here that it takes up about 5 centimeters of space. Alright, we're going to clean all of this out now. So I'm pulling all the wires out here, unscrewing them from the injectors, and also unscrewing these two contacts. This is our solenoid valve for the engine brake system. Its wires go to this connector. I'll also unscrew the bolt here, and probably all these wires should come out here. So the engine brake wires go through this hole. The injector wires go through this one. I remove the wires, and then I guess I'll take the engine over there to the work area, because I don't have a crane beam here. I have a hoist, so I can't remove the cylinder head like this. And it's not just the head, I also need to remove the rocker arm shaft and the camshaft. Everything has to be removed with the hoist because everything here is so big and bulky. So, what else do I want to say? You can see here that my nuts are clean and you can see a bit of aluminum. This is the degreaser that I use. And that's how I simply, with a stream, everything washes off perfectly, including all deposits and black residue. So, why am I sharing this? My previous Volvo engine had very heavy deposits. I don't know, about 5 mm thick like grease. And I couldn't wash them off with anything, no matter what I tried. For anyone who missed it, I'll put a link in the description to my previous engine repair, the dirtiest engine I've ever seen. Well, as for this one, it's basically just black oil. There are no deposits at all. So with a rag or maybe a pressure washer and some chemicals, I can clean everything at home without any problems. Well, before I start disassembling, when the customer arrived that same evening, I poured cleaner into the engine, an engine oil system flush. I'll show you later which one I use. So, I poured it into the engine and started it. It worked for me for 10 minutes and then we drained the oil. So, I also used the flush. Maybe the flush gave us some result too. But still, I think this engine was cleaner from the start than the previous Volvo engine, ET. And we can also see that this engine is a bit different from the previous engine. For example, on the previous engine, this solenoid valve was installed in the middle, that is here between the third and fourth cylinders. On this engine, we see it's installed between the first and second cylinders. Also, this oil pan is different. So, in general, there are some small differences. This is our D12, the exact model will appear here on the screen. And there's also the D13 engine. Basically, it's almost the same, but its timing mechanism is also located back here. I once adjusted the valves on a D13, I think. Basically, it's the same system there. There are also these plates on the exhaust valves, but the timing gears are not in the front. They're back here. Maybe someday a Volvo D13 will appear on the channel. I also haven't removed the control unit yet. I could just disconnect the connector and take it out. Well, basically I'll just take out all the wires now along with the control unit and remove everything at once. I'm removing the camshaft and taking off the bearing caps and covers. The camshaft also has bearings. I've set the mark. Well, I'll explain about the marks during assembly later. There should be marks here somewhere, like first, second, third in order, but just to be safe I'll make my own marks as well. I've removed the cylinder head. The main issue was oil blowing through the breather. There's some wear, but it's not too bad. Considering this engine has run 2,700,000 kilometers, you could even say there's almost no wear at all. You can still see the crosshatch on the cylinder liners. Well, obviously the most wear is right here, where the top dead center is, where the compression ring reaches. This is usually where we have the most wear. Well, it's literally just a few tenths, not even half a millimeter, just 2 or 3 tenths. But if you measure the diameter, it'll be about plus 0.5 millimeters, I think, in this spot. In the middle of the sleeve, obviously, the wear will be less. Well, what I want to say is that for this kind of mileage, the engine's condition is just excellent, amazing. I don't even know what to say. Also, if you check the cylinder head mating surface, overall it's actually in good shape too. We'll see if we need to resurface the plane or not. But everything here is just excellent, simply amazing. The cylinder liner definitely needs to be replaced, and the piston rings also need to be replaced for sure. Let's see what condition the pistons are in, the piston skirts and the grooves for the piston rings. And as an option, I don't even rule out that we might keep the old pistons and just replace the cylinder liners and rings. As an option, just thinking out loud, we'll see after we take a look. So next I need to lay the engine on its side, remove the oil pan, the oil pump, also take off the front cover, then the rear cover with the flywheel. Then we'll start taking out the pistons and the shafts. Also, the engine has been washed after being removed from the car. For example, this area was covered before and wasn't accessible. You can see the layer here, several centimeters of dirt. Everything here was washed with a pressure washer, cleaned as much as possible. For example, in this spot, there was also no access. We can also see how much dirt there is. And for example, on this side, we also didn't have access, and you can see how much dirt there is. The tray here had the same amount of dirt. Well, that's me. What I'm saying is that it's impossible to clean the engine perfectly. I mean, you could spend a lot more time trying to get in there with a spray gun at different angles, maybe use some kind of chemical. Either way, once you take it apart, the result is about the same. So as I said, I don't see much point in cleaning the engine before disassembly. I unscrewed the shaft of the gear, the intermediate gear that goes to the oil pump. And as you can see, there's wear on the shaft itself, and there's also wear on the bushing. So as we remember, oil comes here directly from the pump. There's a drilling there, and it turns out that all the metal shavings are still in the oil, even if it's just a small amount. In the system, it goes through the oil filters, and after that, the oil in the system is already clean. But here, it comes directly from the pump. And obviously, this shaft suffers the most. So, as many Volvo engines as I've worked on, this gear, this shaft, is always in about this condition. And honestly, I want to say this is actually still a good condition. Sometimes it's all completely worn out in there. So you could say it's kind of a common issue with these Volvo engines. So the shaft U will need to be replaced, and either the gear itself will be replaced, or if I can find this bushing, then by just replacing the bushing, the old gear can stay. And actually, all these gears we see here, they're all intermediate gears. Here is the crankshaft, and the auxiliary equipment is driven by this gear system. So this is the gear for the compressor and the pump. The water pump is the gear for the fuel pump. The low pressure fuel pump and the power steering pump. Also, when this engine was in a different version, we have a plug here, but on some models a fuel pump is installed here. So these two intermediate gears go to the camshaft. Now I'm going to unscrew all these bolts, remove all the intermediate gears, and check the condition of the bushings and the shafts. Here we have these two gears, they're on bearings. I'll also check the condition of these bearings, and maybe they need to be replaced. I'll also unscrew this oil nozzle. It's used to lubricate all these gears. So we have different drilling angles here, and the oil sprays onto these gears under pressure. So I'm removing the gears, taking off this intermediate plate, and then we'll keep disassembling, removing the flywheel and the rear flywheel housing. Alright, so I'm removing the main bearing caps, and here we see the fifth main cap, or rather the fourth, where the thrust bearing rings are installed, and they're in this condition. For this mileage, the bearings are in excellent shape. Sometimes bearings look much worse with even less mileage. I don't expect any crankshaft issues. So I've already checked both the main and the rod journals in advance, and everything looks great here. In my opinion, everything is in perfect condition. So now I'm taking out the pistons. I've already cleaned off all the carbon deposits there. Then I'll take out the crankshaft, and basically that's it. The engine is disassembled. We'll sum up the results. Well, the rod bearings are actually in excellent condition, so I don't know. You could say this engine has run a couple 100,000 kilometers. So if you really wanted to, you could have left the old rod bearings. Well, of course, we're going to use all new bearings. Well, anyway, we'll take it apart now, and then I'll tell you what I think about this engine. So I'm taking out the piston. We can see that the rings are in place, the rings aren't broken, but they're very worn out. Alright, so the engine is disassembled. Let's sum it up. I'll say right away that the engine is in good condition, and considering the mileage on this engine, you could even say it's in excellent condition. So, what are we going to do with the block? Well, as far as I can see right now, the cylinder head mating surface doesn't need to be touched, and the liner seats don't need to be touched either. So everything here is perfect. It's as if I'm saying the engine hasn't done 2.5 million but 100 or 200,000 kilometers, 2.7 million. So for the block, we'll probably need to machine the seats for the main bearings. The bearings are in this condition as usual. The ones installed in the cap are more worn. The ones in the block are in better shape. That means the bearings are already sitting loosely in the cap. We can see they move freely like this. Well, obviously the bearings themselves are already worn out. They've settled. They're worn. But the journals are smooth. I plodnost, I dat krishki. There are no scratches. The crankshaft will stay as it is for now. Maybe I'll polish it, open it up and inspect it. Unscrew the plugs of the oil channels. I'll clean the channels. As for the camshaft, there are no issues either. Everything is perfect here. We'll just replace the bearings. Well, here we have bearings, not bushings. I'll replace the camshaft bearings. There are no issues with the rocker arm shafts either. But maybe we'll replace some of the pads. I'll see about that after I clean everything up. We'll take a closer look at the small stuff later. Here's the oil pump as well. I'll open it up and check the condition of the housing and the gears. But for now, I think we'll keep the old pump. The oil pressure was good. When I was flushing the engine, I added the cleaner, started the engine, and checked the pressure at idle when it was warmed up. If I have any footage, I'll insert it now. For now, we'll leave the oil pump as is. So, as for the pistons, the connecting rods will be sent for inspection because the bearings in the rods are also loose. This will measure everything and give their verdict. So, after the inspection, we'll know what to do with the connecting rods. So the piston group will be new. The pistons consist of two parts, sleeves, a pin, seals and piston rings. All of that will be new. Those are the main points. I've covered it all. As for the injectors, the customer says they were done recently, literally just a month ago, so we won't be working on the injectors. They also replaced the copper sleeves under the injectors in the cylinder heads, so I won't be touching those either. And as for the cylinder head, obviously, we'll disassemble it. We'll inspect the valves and guides and at minimum replace the valve stem seals. So the flywheel definitely needs to be replaced. Then it depends on the customer's wishes. Either just replace the flywheel and keep the old clutch disc and pressure plate, or replace everything if the old parts are too worn. They weren't replaced that long ago, but we can replace everything as a set. I recommend replacing the whole set to avoid any issues if we leave the flywheel and pressure plate that were already installed here. And then the car might jerk for a while because there won't be proper contact. We'll discuss the whole area with the customer regarding the gears. We'll see, as I said, from my side, I'll check the condition of the Tula bearings, and as for the electrical equipment, I don't know yet. Also, if the customer gives the go ahead, we'll take it for inspection, maybe for repair. I have a compressor lying around somewhere else. I'll take it apart as well, see what needs to be done. At the very least, we'll replace the piston rings, the gaskets. I'll clean the valves. But in general, the compressor will get an overhaul too. That's it. We need to repair a head, another Volvo engine. The next series will be about assembling this engine. I don't know how many episodes there will be, maybe 1, 2 or 3. Also, as usual, I'll try to film the installation in the car, and the first start will be in the car. I'm not starting it here, so I'll end this episode now. Thanks for watching, good luck and goodbye.